The first step is to put about a tablespoon or two of oil in a pan and get it warming up. Once you've done that, and it's reasonably warm, you can add your pasta of choice. Excuse me while I do this one-handed. And because I'm a child, and I drop things, I'm adding 2 types of pasta, because that's what I enjoy. You're going to want to carefully watch this and keep it moving so that none of it burns, but it does get fried. There'll be blisters on it. I'll show you when it's done. Important note, this is about as high as I ever go on this stove. Like, this is higher than I go for cooking eggs and similar. So this will fry pretty quickly. And you'll hear it when it's ready. You'll know. So this is what I mean when I say it'll start to blister. You can see down in there that the surface is starting to mottle and change color as I work it. Not all of them will do this uniformly. So you just pick a point at which you're happy. I usually go for, actually about here. Fettuccine is a particularly poor one at it. But when it's at about this point, you take a kettle. It doesn't need much water in it. I'll be using probably less than 250 milliliters. And you turn it on, so that water will get hot. And wow, I am not good at doing things one-handed. So we have that. And excuse me a moment. There we go. Alright. So then now that it's frying, we're just going to pour in our sauce. It doesn't even need to be a fancy sauce. That looks like just about enough. And since this is hot, this water does not need to be boiling, just hot. You just pour in enough of it to barely cover the bottom. You can see it bubbling at the back there. And yeah, see? Less than 0.25 milliliters, but we're going to keep the water there just because we might need to add more or remove some. And then we cover this and we let it steam. We'll remove the lid occasionally and stir. It's going to basically be a game. If you think there's too much water, you lift off the lid and let it boil off. If there's too much, you add a bit more, but generally you'll want to work it with the lid either just slightly cracked or closed. And you stir everything around. And because we're doing it this way, the timing on the pasta actually just goes entirely out the window. You cook it till it's done. It's been less than a minute, maybe 2 if I'm super generous, and the pasta's already soft enough to fold into the pan. So it does get pretty well done reasonably quickly. It's not like this takes hours. I'm boiling off some of the water right now because even the 250 milliliters I added was a touch too much. Once again, doing this one-handed and trying to pay attention to where I'm pointing the thing is much harder. But because it's being cooked in the sauce, you'll notice when you eat it, actually, the taste is in the pasta, which is enormously helpful, far superior to just making pasta and pouring it on top. And you don't need to go to this extent. One of the secondary ways I'll do it is I'll make the pasta the normal way, and then after straining the pasta at al dente, you add it back into a pot with the sauce, and you just cook it for 3 to 4 minutes and let the flavors, combine. It's like marinating a steak. You don't just put barbecue sauce on top of a steak. I don't know if this is a good example because I don't do steaks, but you don't just drop sauce on top. You let it soak and then you cook it because flavors work together when they're cooking. You don't combine flour and egg and call that a pancake. You cook them. I'm rambling. water's evaporating in steam because conservation of mass, yada yada yada. I have a video on that. But this will proceed to slowly be done, and I'm going to be watching it until it's done. And it's 11:55 now. I'll show you the time when we get back. Alright, progress update. It's now been cooking uncovered for about 3 minutes, maybe 4. Depends on when in minutes we are. Right now it's 59:12. And it's softening up quite a bit. The water's running low because I've had it uncovered for about half a minute now after you saw me leave. So I'm just going to add a little bit of water to create a thin layer back at the bottom. Stir it all around to make sure it's combined. And just break up this fettuccine because I can. Set that back on the other counter because I have no space on this one. Recover, and I'll check on it in another minute or two. When I said you'll hear it, that applies to this step too. You have to cook with all your senses. This is not, no cooking really is anything you can just set a timer and walk away from. You should pay attention to your food. This is approaching done quite quickly. One of the best ways to check is just to grab a little bit and just bite it. See what the inside looks like. Unfortunately, these things are awful, but this is very slightly undercooked because there's a little white bit right at the closest edge there. Very blurry. Wow. Yeah. It's slightly undercooked still in the center. You monitor it. Feel, smell, everything plays a factor. And it's done. All of the water has been absorbed or boiled away, and it took 15-20 minutes for the entire thing. Admittedly, if you don't have the sauce pre-prepared and canned, this might take a little bit longer, but you know, you were gonna make a sauce anyway. Doesn't add any time. And you don't have to bring a massive pot of water to boil, waste all that heat mass, and then throw that water down the sink. So yeah, pasta. I'm just gonna plate this and eat it. I hope you enjoyed the video and that it was helpful to you. Have fun.